So I'll say once more, you're welcome to today's lesson, Unit 4, Leadership and Management. And this is session 14. The intent for today's lesson is still on learning outcome 4. And by the end of this session, you will be able to perform qualitative and quantitative measurement of effectiveness. We're going to look at measurement of effectiveness with respect to satisfactory success and attitude. You're going to be able to apply some practical examples, case studies, and some actionable motivation and training strategies. So we're going to ask the question: Why is this important?
Morning, Patrick.
Yeah, you're welcome. Why is it important? It measurement of progress or effectiveness is actually it helps in organizations to track the progress of the business and also the progress of employees and teams. It drives performance improvement and enhances employee customer satisfaction. Is that clear on today's intent? Then, before we continue on this, let's look at yesterday. The last lesson was this. During the last lesson, we looked at these 4 bullet points. We defined performance management and explained its purpose. We evaluated different approaches to performance management. We also applied dealership and management strategies for improving individual and team performance, and completed it with analyzing different methods for appraising performance to ensure continuous improvement. Now, having covered that, do you have any question from the previous lesson? Any question from this previous lesson? Okay, if none, then we continue with today's lesson. So today we're going to start with measuring effectiveness. Now you can define measuring effectiveness, as in leadership and management, we refer to leadership effectiveness as how well an organization achieves its objectives. So in business, we aim to be able to achieve our targets and our goals. And so management and leadership will try to, as the team performs, okay, they will try to measure the effectiveness of how well their objectives are being met. Okay, so it's give them a picture as to how their efforts is is measured against expectations or objectives. There are 2 main categories of measurement that can be applied. These are referred to as qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative can be subjective, is a subjective insight that measures the feeling and perception of persons. So you cannot actually put, if you like, a concrete answer to it, but it's about a feeling and one's imagination or perception of how well one is doing. But quantitative is more data driven. Okay, it's data driven metrics. It has numbers and statistics, so you can actually, see how much of what has been done in concrete terms. So these are the 2 main ways that we apply when measuring effectiveness: qualitative and quantitative. Okay. Now, question: Why might a balance between quantitative and qualitative measures be critical? Why is it important to measure in these 2 ways, these 2 categories, looking at quantitative and qualitative? Anybody? Yeah, you can write your answer in the chat. 2 minutes. Okay, I'll give you model answer now. Model answer. You see, the model answer: a balance ensures a comprehensive evaluation by capturing both subjective experiences, for example, employee morale, and objectives outcome like productivity. Over reliance on one approach may miss critical insights. So, for example, a high productivity might mask employee dissatisfaction. So, it's a question of creating a balance and seeing how subjective and concrete the experiences are. Okay? Otherwise, if you don't look at it that way, one may overshadow the other. So it's best to kind of have a balance when doing that. So if you look at this second bullet point, it says over reliance on one approach, okay, may miss the or marks the employee dissatisfaction. So an employee, the company might be making a lot of profit, but the employees are not happy. They've been dissatisfied with the process. So the idea is to measure the level of satisfaction and of employees against the measure of success and the quantity and the perception of how much the company is producing. Okay, so that is how we look at that. Is that clear enough on that? Okay, so it's a measure of effectiveness in that can also be dynamic, such that it flows, from left to right. So you can search and select, uh, whatever it is you want to measure, make decisions, configure it before deploying, implement it, and then look at the value that you get out of it. Okay, so this is a diagram that can give you that. So if we focus mainly on qualitative measurement, let's look at that in greater detail. The key indicators of measuring qualitative or measuring qualitatively are here, four of them. So we have customer feedback. So for qualitative measurement of effectiveness, we can look at customer feedback. So here is insight on product quality, service through survey or interviews. For example, a restaurant gathers feedback on its menu through online forms. Like many of you, when you purchase items from some of these online shops, they tend to send you, either an email or a text asking you to answer a few questions. Sometimes they put 5 stars and ask you to click on any of the 5 stars. 1 star being least satisfied, and 5 star means highly satisfied. So that is a way of checking, of getting feedback from customers. Sometimes they want to call you and ask you a series of questions, and based on your answer, they can measure, qualitatively how effective their services had been. Okay, employee feedback is also very important and should always be conducted in an open forum. So it helps employees gauge job satisfaction and workplace morale. For example, a tech firm uses anonymous survey to track team happiness. So some organizations may allow people to anonymously, give feedback as to how satisfied they are on the job. Okay, and some may do it face to face in an open manner, and then the management would try to understand that and then try to resolve any areas of unhappiness or any morale that is any area that has a challenge. They would try to um, recover from that by uh, creating workshops, you know, to try to resolve those gray areas or those problems. Okay, so it is important that management are able to perform qualitative measurement of effectiveness. Number three, experts review. Sometimes you can apply external evaluation. Okay, you can outsource that to external organizations who will now evaluate the company, and this can also lead to innovation, creativity, and quality. For example, an architectural firm invites experts to review designs, and so they will get feedback, expert feedback from architects and other other views as well. It could be economics, it could be general public. All of that are uh, you know uh, advents of getting some qualitative information. Lastly, can be a case study, real world documentation of success stories. For example, a clothing brand highlights a campaign that boosts sales. And this can be done via social media sometimes. Okay. So these are just ways in which organizations can get feedback, to check how qualitatively, they meet their requirements or they satisfy customers and employees alike, and how well they're doing, productively in the organization. Okay, is that clear on that? Then we look at satisfaction rate. So rate of satisfaction obviously can be relative sometimes, but we can measure that. So satisfaction rate, customer satisfaction can be measured via net uh, prompter score, NPS, a kind of a survey or interview. Okay, sometimes in some shops you have what is called a suggestion box that you can anonymously leave information there. So this is a way of trying to improve on on customer satisfaction. Okay, the impact it can create repeat business and positive referrals. If people come to your shop and or they visit your organization and you serve them very well, you treat them very well, they will want to come back because they're happy with, they're satisfied with the treatment, and they might also positively refer your company. And on social media, they could put thumbs up or make or leave some good comments. Yeah, so all of these are quite important, especially in today's world where uh, businesses are now online. We're now working globalized, in a globalized manner online. Okay, so there's a lot of virtual shops and virtual commerce or e-commerce, if you like. Um, Also look at employee satisfaction, like talked about previously. Management need to gauge through survey, how satisfied their employees are. At different times, they could do that. It could be through open fora, through meetings, okay, and also exit interviews, which occurs when maybe an employee decides to resign or move on to another job. So the management we want to interview the client to find out reasons why they're leaving. Those reasons would help the organization to rate their business and how based on the answer they receive from the employee that is leaving. So we call that exit interview. For example, the impact here is high productivity and reduced turnover. Excuse me. So when employees are happy, okay, they will probably stay longer and not leave the business. So high turnover means they're not satisfied. Okay, number three, stakeholder satisfaction. This involves investors, suppliers, and other partners of a business. Anybody who has some sort of influence on a business, even including customers. Okay, uh, but in this case, we could look at the people who own the business or who have some sleeping partners or actual partners that manages the business. So the impact here is that we have continuous funding and partnership. So a stakeholder we want to continue to support an organization and fund them accordingly and be a partner if and when they feel that the company is doing well. Okay, so they're satisfied with the rate, of performance. Okay, so there are quite an array of issues. You know, you see sometimes when you have people like partners, people who support organizations, and when they, when they have maybe gross misconduct, they may strip them off their partnership. And so, because that obviously sends a wrong message, okay, in satisfaction, and the company might decide not to, might strip them off their, you know, their support or their partnership, and so they can no longer be partners for that business. So it's quite a whole array of issues, measuring partnership. Okay, the question here is, what is a common tool used to measure customer satisfaction? Is it A, B, C, or D? So you can use, I think the answer should be what? Should be D, right? Or MPS? Should be D, because it covers surveys, focus group, MPS. All of these are methods that can be used. So the answer is all of the above. Okay? Is that clear enough, guys? Right. Next, we look at the motivation level. The indicators for these: employees' engagement. This reflect commitment to work. For example, engaged employees suggest process improvement. So when management engages employee, the employees are able to, you know, to lend their voices and so, and give information to organization. Okay, so that is a positive way. And when employees feel that they are able to engage openly and their suggestions are taken on board, they become more happier and more motivated. The motivation level goes up. So employee turnover rate, high rate may indicate poor motivation. So obviously, when employees are leaving a particular organization for another organization, there must be something that is making them do that. And most times it's poor motivation, which can be quite an array of issues. So management need to find out what those are at some point. Excuse me. All right. So discussion question: what is the impact of employee turnover on an organization? Before we do that, let's look at success of training development. Okay, so when employees are trained, they can be motivated. When they have opportunity for development, they can be motivated as well. So completion rate. So a percentage of staff completing a particular course or training, can also lead to success. And application of skills, metrics, for example, here, integration of new skills in the workplace. For example, trained staff reduce error rate by 20% according to this research. So basically, management must find ways to motivate and keep the motivation level of their employees quite high by performing a lot of things, like you saw from our previous lessons, which includes training and development. People need to know that they belong to an organization, the culture of that business is good. They have opportunity for improvement, for moving up in the ladder. Uh, their welfare and well-being is being looked after and supported. The company is flexible enough to accept, and work with them. So all of these are, show value. So all this equates to motivation level. And usually when the motivation level is low, people tend to leave. So the question here is, what is the impact of employee turnover on organization? That means, what is the impact of when employees leave a business or leave an organization? The possible answer here is high turnover disrupt workflow. Okay, and they will, increase recruitment and training costs and may harm the team morale. Very, very true. So when people leave businesses in between, in between production, then the production, the workflow, will be slowed because they will need to now fill in and re-recruit people and recruit. And we know that recruitment is not very easy, depending, especially if the job requires skilled or talented people. So when they leave, that can really cause a disruption in the business. Okay, because even when you recruit, you may not recruit somebody who has the skills, and so you might have to train people that you recruit or train somebody in-house to meet up with what is required. And all of this can set back a company not only in terms of money, it can also set them back in terms of time and can also harm generally the team morale. The team that are staying will begin to lose high spirit if they feel that the business is having problems. So management need to be very aware of all of this, okay, to avoid high turnover. Low turnover generally indicates stability and that teams and employees are quite motivated. Okay, and so management should always put in place by measuring satisfaction level, qualitative and quantitatively measuring their productivity and team spirit, so that there's low turnover. Because when there's low turnover, the business is stable and people are motivated, and ultimately there will be high productivity. Okay, is that clear enough on that? Pictorially, you can look at it this way. So we have a motivation, where we move from this level going up to intrinsic motivation. So this is another study, that you can go from motivation to external regulations, interjected regulations. All this can also stifle or make things better or worse. So the idea is to uh, avoid anything that would cause amortization, okay, and create a lot of some intrinsic and extrinsic factors can also be applied that way. You can apply, Maslow's theory of motivation in work, or you can use Herzberg and all of other ones that we've learned as well. Okay, and the environment, the organizational culture should be very good because attitude in the workplace can also be an issue. So looking at attitude in the workplace, employee morale, positive morale drives high productivity. For example, an engaged team launches a product ahead of schedule, so they work to schedule and on time. The team morale, good collaboration, communication, and collaboration among the teams boosts output. So cross-functional teams tackle complex projects by by cooperation and collaboration. Leadership effectiveness is also one factor. Are they very controlling? Is the leadership strong? Do they inspire teams? Are they very rigid or they're very inspirational and very flexible? So all of these are attitudes in the workplace, and bad attitude in the workplace would obviously lead to high turnover and poor productivity. Then good sustainable attitude in the workplace will lead to high productivity, high morale, high cooperation among teams, and high spirits. Okay, so it follows. And all right, discussion question here. Let's look at this. How can leadership styles impact workplace attitude? How can leadership styles impact workplace attitude? This is exactly what I just mentioned here. Leadership style must, we've learned a variety of leadership styles. We learned things like autocratic, democratic, participative, consultative, laissez-faire. We learned quite a lot of different forms of style, situational, transformational, we did, inspirational. All of these are methods of styles for that managers can apply. No one size fits all. So managers can take a mix of the different leadership styles that improves teams and individuals and improves productivity. Obviously, depending on the situation. All right. And obviously, at some point, they might need to make some quick decisions. So you could apply autocratic. Autocratic, we know is not always liked, but especially in most organizations. But when quick decisions need to be made, then they might just apply autocratic. Okay, but the idea is to understand the situation and understand what styles could benefit the organization as well as the team itself. Okay, look at this quote here. Your attitude determines your altitude. That is, an unknown source, is a phrase that people use sometimes. So the workplace attitude will determine how well they're gonna grow, whether people are going to stay with them or they're going to have good or poor reports, you know, uh, globally or nationally, depending on the organization. So let's look at this question about what sort of styles. So, so here you have three different type of answers: transformational, autocratic, democratic. All these are different styles that management can apply. Okay, depending on on the situation at hand. Is that clear, guys? Right. We look at success of training and development. Very, very important that employees know and are aware that they can be trained for growth, for development in the business, and it should be measured. Okay, there should be a measurement of that as well. So, for success of this training and development, there has to be completion measure rates and success rates. Okay, measurements measures the percentage of employees who completed. Basically, measurement of the status and completers, and then success. So this will do the little math, and you understand this. For example, this formula here, completion rate can be employee completing the training against total employees that started times 100 will give you the rate of completion. Okay, and completion may not be success as well, depends if it's graded. Employee feedback gauges satisfaction with training program. So after a training program, you can always gauge employee satisfaction on a particular training. Was that training effective? Was it useful? You can ask those questions. You can put your 5 stars, one being the least satisfied, five being highest satisfied. You can use a variety of that pictorially, or you can also have opportunity for them to leave comments. Okay, and then collection or gathering methods of gathering this information or this feedback can be via any of these surveys. You all know what surveys are. Group focus, okay, interviews. There are other ones as well, like participation, like visits and do a physical survey. All right. We also have questionnaires. All of these are different methods of gathering or collecting information for that can now be for feedback basically. Number three, application of skills is also very good. As you learn and you're trained, management expects that you can now apply the skills that has been learned. So assess how effectively employees apply new knowledge to the job. Is there any, so you measure it to see before this training how much was being produced, and after the training how much are they producing now. If it's about behaviors and attitude, and group activity before and after. You have a kind of a check between the before and after, qualitatively and quantitatively, before and after, to see the measure of attainment of, in this case, application of the skills. You can evaluate this using a variety of methods: performance review, manager feedback, which should be always positive or constructive. Then self-assessment can also be done, where you're given a questionnaire for you to self-assess yourself and score it. Okay, all these are methods for evaluating success. In this case, application of skills. Okay, we can also look at this. Why does it matter? Why it matters? Why do we need to do all this training and all this research? It's quite important. It improves individual and organizational performance. That's why it matters. We need to know where we are, where we're headed to. It enhances employee satisfaction and retention. Yeah, we want to look at why people are not happy, why employees are leaving, and then we try to rectify that by a variety of measures. Okay, so it ultimately drives continuous improvement and innovation and creativity within the organization. So you can see why it's quite important that measurement of effectiveness and success are important in organization, both as an organization wide, but also as employees and teams. Every sector of the organization need to be effective, and as such, you need to check to understand how effective they are. Every effort, how effective they are. Remember that also money has been spent at some point, so you need to know how well the money that is being spent is giving values. So, okay. So discussion here, how can organizations ensure employee apply new skills effectively post training, that is after the training? How can they ensure that employees are applying the new skills? Like I said before, you got to do quite a variety of things, before and after. Okay. Typical answer will be something like this: how organization can ensure employee apply new skills. So you can look at all of these eight various methods. I'm just going to highlight the main points. It can reinforce training with practical application, provide continuous support, set clear expectations, regulate feedback and monitoring, offer resources and tools, encourage a growth mindset, evaluate and adapt training programs, and also have an overall meeting target, kind of a KPI that can be used to see before and after. This is how much KPI, how much they could meet at a given point, and after they've been trained, you know, is there any change, any upward change, for example? Do the math and evaluation. So pictorially, you can look at it this way. So it's a kind of a vicious circle, how we identify training needs. So at some point, you could have to identify it. Once you identify a training need, then you define the budget that's going to allow you to have that need. Okay? Because everything in an organization costs money. There has to be the money and the funding for it. So once you identify the need for training or training needs within the organization, you need to find where the money is going to come from. You define the money, the budget, and then you plan the implementation. You plan the training, and then you implement the training. Okay, to implement it, after implementing it, and then you deliver it, make sure it's being received. You deliver it to requirement, and then finally you evaluate to see how well the initial plan or initial intention has been met, how well it's met through your the training through KPIs and through other forms of evaluation and assessment to understand the value that has been added in due to the training that and development that was that has been had or planned or implemented. Okay, so that was looking at qualitative per se. When we look at quantitative measures, this is more about concrete, about numbers. For example, we can have sickness and absenteeism. In organizations, we can measure the percentage of days lost by employee sickness or absenteeism. For example, we have here 10% absenteeism in retail impacts store performance. Okay, in a variety of ways, you know. So you look at numbers, you can calculate it. So a person will know how many times they were absent. Management can know how many times total absence or percentage wise, loss of business, or they had to pay extra to get somebody else to fill in. All of that adds up to the metrics, the quantitative measurement of effectiveness. Number two, accidents or near misses at work. Under health and safety, this is quite important as well. You need to know the health and safety measures, the frequency rate of accidents or near misses must be recorded. There has to be a recording book or system in every organization, uh, uh, you know, as the policy says. And so, at any given time, you can find out the frequency of or frequency rate of such accidents or near misses. For example, in a construction site, they're able to track injuries per 100 hours worked. So over 100 hours worked, then they do a kind of analysis there to find out how many accidents or near misses that were recorded in that period. Also, timekeeping and meeting deadlines. This can also be quantitatively calculated or measured. Percentage of tasks completed over time, over given time. Okay, so all these are numbers. So when you hear quantitative measurements or analysis, we're talking about numbers, concrete terms. Okay, with evidential concrete terms. Case study example: a logistic firm improved punctuality by implementing flexible hours. This can be possible. Yeah, a logistic firm improved punctuality by implementing flexible hours, meaning instead of being too harsh and controlling over attendance or punctuality, people by having people by creating a flexibility in punctuality, people can come in at different times and leave at different times. So that could solve the issue of punctuality, so long as the production is going high. Again, you can measure that against over time. From this question, possible answer from this question: a logistics firm improves punctuality by implementing flexible hours. We can look at this, this case study. Flexible hours accommodated employees' personal needs, leading to fewer rates of late arrival. Yeah, because when you allow flexible hours, then there will be nothing like lateness. Because there will be lateness if only you're rigid on your timing. If you say you must be there at 9:30, for example, then you can calculate anybody coming after 9:30 is late. But if you apply a flexible time, so people will not be arriving late because the business have considered individual needs. Some people have needs, different needs. Men and women may have different needs in the mornings for a variety of reasons. So if they can come in at a bit later and leave later and get their work done, again, mature, out of maturity and trust. Once people know that they're trusted, they would be honest in their daily activities at work, and that can lead to higher productivity. So, second bullet point: tracking lateness before, data, and after the change demonstrated improvement. Okay, so just before and after, and so before you apply the flexibility and after you apply the flexibility, you can look at quantitatively the impact of that. Okay, now look at productivity metrics. Productivity can also be measured. Now, goods and services produced per hour can be calculated quantitatively. You can count over a 1 hour period, 60 minutes, how much of the product was produced or services was rendered in that time. So that can be used as an output measurement. Then you can also do the same for wastage. Reduction indicates better efficiency. So when in a production you're able to reduce waste, then ultimately there's efficiency. It just spells efficiency. Otherwise, you may have high wastage, and that's not good because wastage is a waste of money and resources and effort and time. For example, a manufacturing unit lowers waste by using AI analytics. So sometimes you apply technology or AI in this case to help analyze the process. So people now use an AI derived uh, process route for producing or giving a particular service, and by so doing, uh, it eliminated mental calculation, but this time giving a more uh, quantitative measure, and by applying that, it became it showed efficiency and high productivity. Overall productivity can be measured in this format. Mathematically, efficiency equals output over input, and the efficiency rate multiplied that by 100. Yeah. Now, quiz: what is a sign of low productivity? A, B, C, or D? What is a sign of low productivity? Low productivity, obviously, the answer would probably be B. Okay. When there's an excessive waste, it spells low productivity because a lot of effort, a lot of, by the time you do the calculation, so you need to try and reduce waste to improve productivity. So low productivity ultimately, although excessive waste is just one, there could also be other reasons as well, depending on what it is you're looking at. Okay, there could also be quite a variety of factors. All right, but on this occasion, in this question, B, it rates highest. Okay, let's look at this case study. Leadership role in improving performance. So leaders must be at hand all the time, using effective styles and situational styles to support their employees and teams in order to improve performance. That is what this title is saying. For example, a call center experiences high turnover and low satisfaction. High turnover means employees are leaving, and the ones that are staying are even have low satisfaction. There must be a problem. How can we identify this problem? And how do we manage it? So here you can see how the actions were taken. Problem identified: poor leadership and lack of feedback loop was what was identified there. That means that leaders or managers were not giving, were operating very poorly. Maybe they were over controlling or very rigid, and had no employee interest at heart, or are unable to motivate or inspire the team. They were not getting feedbacks, early enough, and even when they get the feedback, it wasn't constructive. All this can happen, and as such, it led to high turnover and low satisfaction or morale, and people will leave. So, in order to overcome this, what action was taken? They had to introduce weekly performance review. If you recall, our last lesson, we looked at annual reviews and continuous performance review (CPM). So, because of this high turnover and low satisfaction, then managers obviously we had to maybe change from quarterly or half yearly or yearly reviews to weekly reviews, so that they can trap whatever problems employees are facing that is causing the high turnover and low satisfaction. So weekly reviews will be one that can be had. Weekly meetings, one-on-one meetings, not necessarily one-on-one, group meetings, could be had, so that you can also upskill. Managers may also need to go for training, on communication, because not all managers know how to communicate for whatever reason. So they might be lacking, they might be overlooking things, they might be old school. So they'll need to upskill to learn more on how to communicate and manage people. Okay, that may also be done. Another weekly performance can also be something referred to as RAG, red, amber, and green actions, so that you can, look at everything, put all that is wrong as red, then amber, and then green, and then you try and move it weekly like that, so that before you know what's happening, you move all reds to amber and then to green. So that can be another method of taking actions by management. Okay, and when all this is done, the outcome will be from this research 30% decrease in turnover, and customer complaints dropped by 15%. Okay, so they were having low satisfaction not only from employees but also from customers. And so when the management effectively upskilled managers and reviewed often and identified the problems and dealt with them, there was 30% decrease in turnover, and complaint dropped by 15%. That's beautiful. So this is a good analogy that could be used in a variety of industries or organizations. Okay, so let's discuss this. What additional steps could the leadership take for long-term improvement? What we saw was maybe low term. So in the long term, what would they do? In the long term, they could introduce mentorship. Mentorship is very important so that they can train the future leaders or unskilled leaders or unskilled employees can be mentored, okay, so that they can mentor them on a one-to-one, on a group, format. So introduce mentoring program can also help to, upskill on the job. You can implement real-time feedback, uh, tools. So you can look for all sort of feedback, for continuous feedback. It's very important that teams and individuals get some sort of feedback, and it should be very early enough as well. Timely feedback. You apply SMART acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. It's very important. That is, for any action plan, it needs to be SMART. So feedbacks need to be, quite smart, early enough, as and when is needed, and should be positive and continuous. Then last day, you encourage cross-department collaboration to break silos and improve communication. Very important, not only cross-departmental collaboration, it can also be in-house, functional departments. So sections and departments can, develop The collaboration, the communication should be improved by having some sort of developmental training that they can have. That will break silos. Silos in this case is where some persons or employee within the department, is not sharing their knowledge enough to others, so they're withholding information. And when they withhold information, then people don't get information early enough or correctly. So that can lead to dissatisfied team. Okay, so they need to break those silos and improve communication. All right, we look at our application activity. Let's look at this activity now. All right, I want you to look at this. Take time. Your company's employee engagement scores are declining. So your company's employee engagement are declining. Analyze a possible reason, propose three strategies for improvement, and outline uh, how you'd score, how you'd measure success. Just like what we did previously with the other scenario, where employees turnover was becoming high and there was low satisfaction of both customers and employees. So in this case, the employee are not engaging very well. The score is declining. What might cause that? What might be the reason? Propose action that can be taken and outline how you measure success. Take 6 minutes to do it in. Okay. Answer is in the chat. Okay, let me give you the model answer. Okay, model answer here. So, one, analyze the possible reasons, lack of recognition or career growth opportunities. So, when employees feel that they're being left alone, they cannot see any growth opportunity for them, they begin to, their morale and engagement begin to drop. This could also come due to poor communication from leadership. The work life balance may be affected. So, there's no flexible situations or inspiration being created within the organization or staff welfare. So if there's no good balance, even when they seek for one, managers or organizations are unable to fulfill them. That is enough. All these are enough reasons for individuals or employees to begin to disengage with the business. They begin to drag their feet. They begin to even miss, work. Okay, they take a lot of excuses. They're not very happy, and so the business suffers. So they got some reasons why this can happen, and this does happen in real life, real world situations. So we can propose strategies to overcome this. One, by introducing an employee recognition program. So the company can introduce a way of recognizing efforts, both individual and team effort. Recognize them either by uh, you know shouting it out or in a meeting saying it, you know, communicating it. Employee of the month, for example, you know, sending greetings, um, celebrating birthdays. For example, I know of businesses where every time is an employee's birthday, they can take that day off, and yet they will get their pay. So by celebrating those recognitions, employees feel happy and they engage more. They will even do more for the business, you know. All right, conduct regular town halls for transparent, open communication. Basically, have fora where you have some sort of opportunity for uh, company-wide, department-wide discussions, open discussions, so that everybody can openly air the, you know, the, you know, the, this, you know, their feelings basically, or what they see, or improvements that they wish could happen. Uh, Another one could be offer flexible working arrangements to improve work-life balance. Yeah, it's very important because some might have some issues, and by giving work balance where people can start early, leave early, or start late, leave late, for whatever reason. We have parents that are maybe single parents who may want to start early so that they can leave work early to go and pick up their kids from work. Sorry, from the school. Yeah, and so that they will avoid having to pay child minds and child mind and all of that. So all of this, and it should be flexible such that they can change from early start to late start later, and vice versa. This will help work-life balance and therefore keep the employee happy, engaging, and lower turnovers. Okay. And number three, the outline measurement of success. So again, before and after, increase employee engagement survey scores. So you try to gauge, via survey how people feel now that they're given some growth opportunities. Reduce turnover is also a clear example when you measure the turnover before and after, and then positive feedback in focus groups. You see how people gel, how teams synergy changes, the culture changes for better. All of these are ways in which you can measure and avert problems and ultimately improve productivity. Is that clear, guys? Okay, at this point, let's find out what we have done so far. What have we learned so far? What are the takeaways? So far, we looked at, say, quantitative measures capture human perceptions or perceptives. The quantitative measures are data-driven, objectives, performance tracking. The balanced approach ensures comprehensive insights and that leadership impact directly influences performance. Do you agree with this? That is what we covered so far in this lesson: quantitative, qualitative, balanced approach, and leadership impact. Okay, yes. So let's look at a closing question. How will you apply these principles to your workplace or studies? Knowing what you've learned now, how would you apply these principles to your workplace?
Leadership impact.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Right, let's look at model answer. Okay, we can use balance metrics to track academic performance. We can apply motivational strategies to team projects for better outcomes. We can leverage feedback tools to enhance performance, or personal and team performance. Okay, so these are possible answers to that question. So this is closing now. General discussion that you can take away with you as homework, even though I have model answers, but I want you to look at this objectively. How do qualitative and quantitative measures complement each other? What are the challenges in measuring effectiveness using qualitative data? And a case study: a retail chain discovers high absenteeism among warehouse workers. What steps could management take to avert and correct this? Yeah, so that is our final question. I'd like you to look at this as homework, but I have answers here for you to look at some point. I'm not going to go with you. Look at this at some point. But before you look at it, see if you have your own answers before you look at these model answers here, okay? So that's what we've covered so far. We've covered all of these learning outcomes: qualitative or quantitative measures, measurement of effectiveness, practical examples and case studies. We looked at why they're important, help organization and take process, drive performance improvement, and engage employees and customer satisfaction. Do you agree that we've covered all of this? Okay, and this is your reference. It's quite a lot of them. You can look up all these books, journals, websites, all on case studies. All here you can find information as well. Okay. I'd like to thank you very much for your participation. I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any. Before I take the register, I want to thank you very much and ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at mcbit ed or Pato Vlogs. Subscribe, like, share, make some comment. Or you can send me an email over here as well. So thank you very much, guys. Hold on for me to now take your register. And bye for now.